What if I told you that life isn't happening to you, it's happening through you? That the obstacles, the opportunities, and even the people who show up in your life aren't random, but a direct reflection of your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs. Now, most people live in reaction mode, believing they have little control over what happens to them. But what if that's the biggest illusion of all? What if reality isn't something you're stuck in, but something you're shaping, whether you realize it or not? In this episode, we're going to dive deep into the power of conscious creation, how your mind, energy, and emotions are influencing your life right now, and how you can shift from being a passive observer to an active creator. And by the end of this episode, you won't just understand the power you have, you'll know how to use it to reshape your reality. So let's dive in. Now, there comes a time when you realize life isn't just something happening to you, it's responding to you. You're not at the mercy of random events or stuck in a cycle of reacting to whatever comes your way. Instead, you have the power to shape your reality with your thoughts, your emotions, and a changed mind. And this shift is the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and you step into your role as a conscious creator. It's the realization that your inner world, meaning what you focus on and how you feel and what you believe, directly influences the life unfolding around you. Now, everything in your experience is a reflection of what you consistently hold in your mind. And when you focus on limitations, fear, or doubt, you tend to attract situations that reinforce those emotions. And I know this not just from theory, but personal experience. I've shared a lot on other episodes how for most of my life, I lived with old programs that were creating a lot of chaos and havoc in my life. But when you shift your focus towards confidence, gratitude, and most importantly, possibility, life begins to reflect that back to you. So, in other words, if you expect struggle, life will seem full of obstacles. If you believe in opportunity, doors will start opening. If you feel abundant, you will attract abundance. And the challenge here is to feel a particular way before your external reality has actually made the shift. But it's important to understand that reality is not fixed, it's fluid, adjusting itself to match your energy. And this fluidity of reality also matches the fluidity of your brain. We understand from neuroplasticity that we can use thought to rewire the brain. At the same time, we can rewire reality. In so many ways, your external reality, meaning the material world, is not only just a representation of your inner world, but a representation of the actual structure of your brain. And once you begin to see this, you stop feeling powerless and you start taking responsibility for the way your life unfolds. Now, your thoughts alone don't shape reality. It's the feeling behind them that give them power. A subtle wish or a fleeting thought won't create much change, but a belief deeply felt and emotionally charged sets a powerful force into motion. And what happens is that fear and doubt weaken your ability to create. They send mixed signals that keep your reality uncertain. The opposite of that is that excitement, trust, and certainty accelerate manifestation. So when you feel the truth of your vision as if it already exists, you align yourself with it. And again, there are great teachers who have talked about this before. Neville Goddard talks about feeling as if the wish were already fulfilled. And there is passage after passage after passage in scripture that talk about operating as if it is already done, because that begins to align your emotions with excitement and anticipation, and your emotions fuel the energy of your thoughts. And that energy ripples outward, drawing experiences that match it. This is why confidence and faith and emotional alignment are so crucial in shaping your life. Most people live in reaction mode, allowing the circumstances to dictate how they feel. If something good happens, they feel happy. If something bad happens, they feel defeated. But the challenge here is we get stuck in our current reality. It's like that movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, where Bill Murray is living the same day over and over and over again. The people, the places, the circumstances may change, but if we're constantly reacting to our external circumstances and our thoughts, meaning our reaction, is what creates our next reality, we get stuck in a loop. But as a conscious creator, we don't wait for external conditions to decide how we feel. We set our internal state first. And what that means is we have the capacity to choose peace even when things aren't perfect. Now, a way that we do this is to actually understand that life is always working for us, for our greatest growth, our greatest prosperity, and our greatest evolution. And anything that we are experiencing that we don't prefer is simply a reflection of a previous consciousness. And knowing that at any point in time, we can change the way we think, we can experience these challenges with more peace. So that really is the one moment of transformation. It's when we're experiencing something that we've been experiencing for a very long time, but we choose to experience it differently. How do we choose to experience it differently? Well, number one, understanding everything we're talking about in this episode. And number two, it's a practice. We have the choice to trust the process, even when the path isn't clear. How do we do that? Well, how many times in your life was the path not clear and yet you were able to produce an outcome that you desired? Maybe it was meeting your soulmate. Maybe it was getting to the next level of financial income. Maybe it was starting a business. Maybe it was finding a career that you loved. We can look backwards and we can see that we didn't know then how the path would unfold, and yet we arrived at the destination. Maybe now, when we have a new desire, we can actually trust the process. Well, what happens when we do that? We begin to rewire our brain. We begin to experience the uncertainty of not having a clear path differently. We experience it with trust versus overwhelm or fear. This is the rewiring process. This allows us to actually benefit from this concept of neuroplasticity and changing our brain, and that new thought and those new emotions become new habits that create a new reality. We can choose, for example, to hold a vision of success even before it manifests. So when you take charge of your inner world, your external world starts to reflect that shift. Becoming a conscious creator isn't just about understanding these concepts, it's about applying them. This is a practice. And there are some really effective ways that you can align your mind and energy with the reality that you want to create. Number one is doing a limiting belief audit. I have a lot of other episodes where I talk about how to identify your limiting beliefs and how to transform your limiting beliefs. When I first got involved in this work and started really seeing shifts in my life, I would wake up every single morning and engage in a practice that I call the morning dump. And the morning dump was, I used to wake up with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of not wanting to go into my day. And so I would write all those thoughts down on a piece of paper. I'd create 3 columns. This is a process I teach called the decision matrix. So in the first column, I would write down all my negative thinking. In the second column, I would take each of those negative thoughts and I would write the opposite of the negative thought. So if, for example, I was writing a feeling like I wasn't going to get it all done today, in the second column, I would write, I'm going to get done all the things that are important to get done today. Or I would write something like, whatever I can't get done today, I will turn over to tomorrow because tomorrow will take care of whatever doesn't get done today. And then in the third column, I would say, what evidence do I have for the fact that this is true? And I would start to source evidence from my own life of my new empowered decisions. And I would start to build evidence that was the opposite of my limiting beliefs. So this is a fantastic tool that you can use. Another fantastic tool is affirmations. Now, some people, when they have a lot of weeds in their mental garden, a lot of limiting beliefs, they try to impose affirmations and it only creates more resistance. But if you've got a great tool like the decision matrix to start pulling your limiting beliefs, then you can start to embed and plant new seeds or new programs. And affirmations are more than just positive statements. They are instructions to your subconscious mind. So repeating a new belief like everything is always working out for me, or I attract the right opportunities effortlessly, conditions your mind to expect those experiences. That's why language is so powerful. We can actually, if language reflects what we think, we can actually transform our language and transform our belief systems. Another great tool is visualization. Whether you're just allowing yourself to visualize as you're driving from point A to point B, or going for a walk in nature, or getting a great workout, or whether it's dedicated imagination time and some sort of practice that you have, seeing your desired outcome in your mind isn't just imagination. It's actually a form of rehearsal. And the more vividly you picture what you want, the more your mind accepts it as a possibility and starts to align with it. And this is so powerful. There's actually been studies that have shown that athletes who envision practicing on the court or playing during game time or a championship actually build fast twitch muscle fiber in their bodies. So not only is your body responding to what you imagine, but reality is responding as well. Another great tool is meditation, right? Because a cluttered, anxious mind struggles to create clearly. And meditation at least gives you a 10, 20, 30-minute break where you're dialing down the mental noise. And that gives you an opportunity to connect with your intuition, to hear hunches or insights, and to strengthen your ability to focus on what truly matters. The meditation is like going to the gym. If you want to get really, really good at being able to direct your focused attention towards the things that will actually create the reality that you want, it's important to engage in that practice. You're building psychological strength as you learn how to meditate and reclaiming control over the mental faculties. You can also embody the feeling, right? And the most powerful shift actually happens when you start feeling as if your desires are already real. So when you embody joy or you embody confidence and gratitude before you see external proof, you speed up the manifestation process. And that's why gratitude is so powerful. One of the things I like to say is to have a bank account you want, love the bank account you have, right? To have a business you want, love the business you have. To have a relationship you want, love the relationship you have. If you can actually find little pieces of what you want in the future that exist in your reality right now, that's the fastest way to close the gap between where you are and where you want to go. So once you take responsibility for your energy and mindset, you stop waiting for life to change and you start changing it yourself. You move from hoping things will get better to knowing that they will, because you're shaping them from the inside out. And instead of reacting to circumstances, you start to influence them. Instead of feeling stuck, you choose your direction. Instead of looking for proof, you become the proof. The more you trust in your ability to create, the more life responds in ways that seem almost magical. But it's not magic. It's the natural law of energy and alignment. You are always creating. The only question is, are you doing it unconsciously or intentionally? It's also important to understand that there's a gap between this new reality that you're creating in your mind, or a shift in your beliefs, or affirmations, or visualization, and your reality catching up. And that's actually a really good thing. You can imagine if we had instantaneous manifestation and every time we had a negative thought, it actually occurred, right? The good news is that your positive thoughts are far more powerful and resonant than your negative thoughts. So you can still have negative thinking and produce extraordinary outcomes in your life. I have plenty of negative thoughts still, even though I'm living a life that I only dreamed of at one point of time in the past. And the other thing to recognize is that it's important to stay loyal to these new belief systems, these new affirmations, these new decisions, because there's a period of time where you're experiencing a reality that's been produced by your old thinking. And you have to stay faithful through that period of time and give reality an opportunity to catch up. But the moment you decide to step fully into your power, everything will change, because reality bends to meet the clarity of your vision, and you begin to experience life not as something happening to you, but as something that you're actively shaping every single day. There comes a point in your journey when the chase for control and validation and material success from that period of material consciousness fades into the background. Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind, Go Beyond Self-Awareness, Rewire Your Brain, and Re-Engineer Your Reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind, and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now back to your regularly scheduled episode. So the struggle starts to dissolve in what once seemed crucial. Status, recognition, achievement begins to lose its grip. And in its place arises something far more profound, which is a deep, unwavering inner peace. You know, this is the irony of all of it. The more we stop striving, not only the more we actually create with more ease, but we get to experience the joy along the way, the joy and the inner peace. And isn't that actually what we're after anyways? You know, aren't we wanting to have financial security in order to be able to relax? Or aren't we wanting to find that perfect relationship or heal the relationship we have so that we can relax? And the irony is that if we can actually just train our nervous system to relax, the byproduct of that is the financial abundance, is the intimate and present relationship. And so this peace that we're looking for is not dependent on external security. It's not the fleeting calm that follows a temporary success. It is a state of being that is unshaken by external circumstances and beyond the reach of fear, doubt, or attachment. It is a a realization that the mind no longer needs to fight or resist, and that true power lies not in grasping, but in actually allowing, in being in flow. And so this is the enlightened mind. The enlightened mind moves through life without being bound by it. Paramahansa Yogananda talks about this. He says, the true yogi, once a yogi establishes himself or herself, stands unshaken amidst the crashing of worlds. So this enlightened mind engages with the world, but it doesn't cling to it. It loves without possession, and it embraces change without fear, and it experiences both joy and loss without being consumed by either. So that doesn't mean that we can't desire the material things and we shouldn't have the material things. It's that the material things do not determine our emotional state. And this is the idea of detachment. Again, detachment not as indifference, but as freedom. And so to awaken is to recognize that much of what we once believed was solid, like success, failure, approval, judgment, even our own personalities, is an illusion. Nothing in the material world can truly be possessed or controlled. And oftentimes we learn this lesson through an experience of loss, right? Life has this unconditionally loving way of teaching us that nothing external can be possessed or controlled, and the only thing that is eternal is the spirit and the way that we choose to experience life. And so when you stop trying to hold on, you discover that nothing was ever truly yours in the first place. Success and failure are both temporary, right? Neither define you. Approval and criticism both exist and are reflections of others' perspectives, not your truth or who you are. The past is unchangeable. The future is unpredictable. The only reality is the present moment, right here, right now. And so instead of resisting, you begin to flow. And as you flow, you begin to participate as part of the superorganism of life itself. I had a mentor of mine who once told me that people think that they grow, but there is only one thing, and that is all of creation. And we either choose to go along with the growth of all of creation as a part of all of creation, or we choose to resist it, and we have to go along with it anyway. You know, he says it's similar to like believing that your finger is growing. Your finger's not growing, your whole body is growing, and your finger is just part of it. And so as we begin to flow with life itself, we no longer force, and we just begin to trust. And in that trust, a profound certainty emerges. At this stage, love is no longer conditional. It is not given in exchange for something, nor withheld in moments of disappointment. If you really look at how we love today, it's like one of my mentors, another mentor said, it's like horse trading. I will do this or be this for you, with the expectation that you will then do this or be this for me. Most of the love that we experience in our life is conditional. Parents always like to say that their love is unconditional for their children, and in a sense that's true, but their ability to actually love is conditional. It's conditional based on whether or not they need to go to work, whether or not they're experiencing financial insecurity, how much of their own personal trauma or belief systems they've healed, the friction that may be going on in the relationship with the husband or wife or partner. And so in that sense, they can only love conditionally. But as we begin to awaken and take control as conscious creators, we see that love becomes the foundation of our existence. You stop seeing enemies because you realize that every soul is on their own journey. You stop holding resentments because you realize that those people you resent are only doing what they're capable of doing and nothing more, nothing less. You stop judging because you understand that all human actions stem from conditioning and pain and perspective. And when you recognize this, compassion naturally flows. This is really the beautiful thing as we move into this stage of our own spiritual and personal development. So many people are looking for forgiveness or looking for compassion or looking for joy. And what we realize is it was there all the time. As we begin to peel back the layers of material consciousness, we find all the things that we were looking for externally inside of us already. So forgiveness is no longer an effort, but it's a natural response. So there are great shifts that begin to happen in your beingness at this stage. You stop reacting and you begin observing and allowing space in your life. And in those space and in that gap, miracles occur, insights occur, change occurs. You stop controlling and you begin trusting. And as you trust, you realize you can accomplish even more with less effort. That's why Jesus said, my yoke is easy. These ways create an ease for us. You stop chasing and you begin allowing. Rather than believing that you have to hustle or grind or be more disciplined, you start enjoying the journey of your life while still taking action and seeing that even more than you could ever possibly imagine begins to materialize. And this is the space where intuition becomes your guide. So this is where answers arise without overthinking. In fact, the thinking mind can only take us so far. It's when we learn how to reduce the dominance of the mental aspects of our nature that we start to get intuitive hunches that make the path even easier and clearer. Decisions become clear without struggle and indecision. And the mind, once noisy and restless, becomes quiet enough to hear the guidance that has always been there. The great spiritual teachers throughout history have pointed to this state of awareness. Lao Tzu taught of effortless flow, moving in harmony with life rather than resisting it. And the Buddha revealed that suffering ends when attachment ends. Jesus spoke of love without condition, surrendering to the divine flow of life. And they didn't teach us to seek enlightenment outside of ourselves. They showed us that it was always within. This is what Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within. The path was never about gaining something. It was about removing the illusions that kept us from seeing what's always been there. And when the mind reaches this state, this is when reality really begins to shift. Now, do you have to be perfect about this? Absolutely not. This is progressive. And so a small shift in your mindset can create massive changes in your external reality. Again, that's why in scripture it says you just need the faith of a mustard seed to tell the mountain to move from here to there. Small changes towards more positive, higher vibrational thinking create radical ripples in your life. As you do this, life no longer feels like something happening to you. Instead, it begins to unfold through you, effortlessly aligning with your highest path. And so what happens? Well, synchronicities become normal. What once seemed like coincidence or a miracle now feels like precision of reality. Challenges no longer create suffering. They become opportunities for deeper awareness. And in many ways, we begin to anticipate and expect problems, knowing that a solution is coming even more closely behind the problem, to the point that as you master this awareness, problems stop existing because the problem and the solution are actually one. Manifestation becomes effortless, not through force, but through alignment. So desires, when they arise, are met not with grasping, but with trust. And the mind is no longer lost in past regrets or future anxieties. It sits in the present moment where all that is needed already exists. So to reach this state is to step into true freedom. The world doesn't change, but your experience of it does. Some of our coaching clients who've gotten into our high-level coaching and been in this work for a while have said, it's the craziest thing. I tell people nothing's changed, but everything has. It allows us to now engage with life without entanglement, passion without suffering, purpose without pressure. Is this a perfect? Every single day goes exactly the way we expected? No, but we're playing the game of life a lot better. And when you play the game of life better, you no longer need to escape life because you no longer see life as something that you have to just endure or get through. It's actually something to witness and something to embrace. In that, every moment becomes sacred. And every interaction holds meaning. Every breath is enough. And then comes the final realization. Enlightenment was never something to actually achieve. It was always present, waiting for you to stop searching and simply see. Richard Rudd, who wrote a book called The Gene Keys, has a beautiful key. I can't remember which one it was. I think it's key 33 or key 44 or key 22. It's some sort of angel number as a key. And what that key says is that the true master of their own personal growth realizes at some point in time that personal growth is not a thing that's pursued, but it's a thing that occurs to you. And pursuing personal growth is part of the journey. It's part of the process of learning that you can't actually achieve spiritual enlightenment. And it is in that realization, after struggling for so long, that you finally give up and you realize that it was always there. And that is true spiritual mastery. And when this truth is understood, of course, the search ends. And when the search ends, that's where you find it, right? All that remains is peace. You've now stepped into the truth that you are not a passive observer of reality, but an active creator of it. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs are shaping your world in ways most people never realize. But here's the next question. What if your awakening isn't just about you? Because the truth is, your transformation is not isolated. Every shift in your consciousness doesn't just change your life, it sends ripples through the collective, influencing the world around you in ways you can't even see. So, what does this mean? How does your personal awakening contribute to something far greater? And how can raising your own consciousness help elevate humanity as a whole? Well, in the next and final episode of the series, we're going to dive deep into the collective consciousness, the invisible web that connects us all. And we'll explore how your thoughts, your energy, and presence are affecting the greater whole, and how the rising consciousness of humanity is already reshaping the world as we know it. Because this is where personal awakening expands into something much bigger. You are not just transforming yourself, you are part of a global shift. Now, don't forget, if you haven't yet, to check out the previous videos in this series. And if you already have, awesome. We're going to get on to the fourth and final episode in this series and step into the deeper truth of your role in this unfolding evolution. If you love this episode, do me a favor. If you're listening on the audio platforms, subscribe, leave me a rating or a review. And if you're joining me on YouTube, this is just what I think. Let me know what you think, because you're on your own unique hero's journey and you've been collecting a tremendous amount of information based on your own experience. And I would love to know what it is. Leave me a comment. I tried to read every single one. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you can get notifications of the next episode and all episodes. And if you love this episode, all I ask is that you do one thing: pay it forward. Share it with somebody you love. So I love you. I enjoy being on this episode with you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with you. And I will see you in the fourth and final episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.